Let's start with the very first story. The Public Interest and Accountability Committee, PIAC, says the Ministry of Finance is compelling the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation, GNPC, to expunge an amount of $50 million it took as loan from its books. The money withheld by the Finance Ministry in 2014, previous government, is yet to be paid. Chairman of PIAC, Dr. Steve Mantiao, says the approach by the Finance Ministry to expunge the supposed loan is inappropriate. This and other revelations were captured in the 2018 PIAC report launched in Kumasi. Prince Appiah reports.
The 2018 report also revealed that no allocation was made for the Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund, a situation the report indicates is not acceptable. Dr. Steve Mantiao is the chairman of the Public Interest and Accountability Committee.
Given the important contribution of the Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund to some infrastructure projects, PIAC calls on the Ministry of Finance to ensure that there is constant allocation and disbursement to the fund as prescribed by the Petroleum Revenue Management Act to facilitate the execution of legacy projects.
Only 49% of the utilized ABFE was used for capital expenditure, less than the 70% stipulated in the Petroleum Revenue Management Act. 51% was utilized for the supply of goods and services. In 2014, the Ministry of Finance withheld an amount of $50 million from GNPC, which it treated as a loan. The PIAC report indicates that this transaction was not backed by any form of agreement, spelling out the terms of the loan and the repayment plan.
To expunge amount from its books on account that the corporation had not been capped as required by the Earmarking Funds Realignment Act. And we find this very capricious. You are taking a loan. You did not take the loan by consent of the party that is granting the loan. You took it by force. And now you are determining how to offset the loan. And you are using technicality in the law. And using a provision in a new law to override the provisions in another law. Because the PRMA.
All right, so those were excerpts of the launch of the 2018 PIAC report. Let's get a reaction on this particular issue, and we join on the phone lines by natural resource economist Gideon Ofoipiasa. Good evening, sir. Welcome to Business Live.
Good evening, sir, and then good evening to your listeners.
All right. Now, the fact that the GNPC has been giving monies to state agencies has been a source of concern for some time now. Now, currently, they're indebted, or the Ministry of Finance is indebted to the National Oil Company to a tune of $50 million since 2014. Now, according to PIAC's latest report, there are kind of plans or efforts to sideline this particular monies. What's your take on this?
Okay, thank you very much, and then good evening to your listeners once again. You realize that GNPC is a quasi-government entity. And then as a matter of fact, if you look at the role, the reason why GNPC was set up was to focus on the promotion of upstream petroleum, the exploration and then production of upstream petroleum activity. But over time, you realize that one of the key challenges that has hindered the GNPC from fully achieving this objective, and then even from reaching its set target in the upstream oil and gas sector, has been the issue of corporate governance. This has been a challenge over time. Currently, as we speak, if you look at the corporate governance of GNPC, you realize that the board chairman is a party person, the CEO is a party person, and then the head of the GNPC Foundation, which is usually used in the delivery of corporate social investment, is also a party person with a lot of political appointees. Now, if this happens like that, you realize that there is this kind of linkage with the party hierarchy. And then, as a matter of fact, because there is this kind of linkage to the party hierarchy, they are subject to the control of the state. And then what we are hearing now is one of the likely things which is supposed to happen. So this is one of the issues. And then until we focus on diluting the shareholding structure of GNPC, probably maybe by floating it on the stock exchange, advertising position for people to be able to apply, and then go through a rigorous interview and then screening process. This would always be an issue, and then it will come up every now and then.
So it looks like in the ABFA there are allocations to to fund infrastructural development. Now, the GNPC, as a national oil company, has also made assertions that it is trying to buy its social license within the host communities where it operates. Now, could this be duplication of resources? Could it be wastage of resources? Hello, Gideon.
Hello.
Yes, so GNPC has mentioned that it is trying to buy the social license to operate within the communities where it operates, the social license. Now, there are also allocations made under the ABFA in the budget to fund some of these projects. Could this be a source of wastage of resources?
Not really, because every organization has a role to play in the society in which it lives, that's to ensure that it contributes to the society. We are not saying that they should not do some form of corporate social investment, but one would have to look at how these investments or these projects are selected, how the distribution has been over time, and then probably a list of these projects that they have done over years, and then they should be audited over time. And then we are looking at probably placing a cap on how much it should spend on such corporate social investments. If we do not place a cap on that, we do not look at the methodology of the selection and then implementation of such projects, then over time what happens is that it may be a source of corruption and then all that. So CSRs or CSIs are very, very important, but how are projects selected? And then can we think of placing a cap on how much GNPC should spend in its corporate social investment? These are questions that we need to discuss and then ensure that the right thing is done.
But as a national oil company, should it stay focused within its core mandate of oil exploration, or can it do, or to what extent can it do corporate social responsibility projects?
Of course, the focus and then the priority should be on its core mandate. But as part of your core mandate, you realize that the focus of a business is not only to reap profit, but should also be concerned about the environment in which it works and then the society within which the environment, the organization operates. These are key tenets of the concept of sustainability. So the first thing is that focus on your core mandate, but you must also focus and then be mindful about the society and the environment in which you are in. And then as a matter of fact, a portion of your profit is expected to be plowed back into the society. But as to how much that is done, and then if that is going to derail you for fulfilling your core mandate, then there should be a cap on how much you should you'll be spending in your CSR project.
All right, many thanks for that input. Gideon Ofori-Piasa is a natural resource economist. He's adding his voice to the call by the by the Finance Ministry for the GNPC to write off its $50 million debt it owes the national oil company. Now, we've been posing this question on our Facebook page. We say, is Ghana misusing the petroleum revenue it is generating currently? And these are the results we're having from from the page. Do you think Ghana is misusing the oil revenue? 68% is saying yes, Ghana is misusing the oil revenue, whilst 32% says no, we are on course and actually not misusing the revenue generated from oil and gas. You could still participate in this survey, which is still ongoing for the next 20 hours or so. Also on Business Live, let's turn attention to other stories. Data commissioners from Africa are expected to adopt top 5 key measures to deal with the menace of data piracy in Africa. These include stiffer punishment for defaulting companies and payment of penalties. These and other issues are part of discussions at the Africa Region Data Protection and Privacy Conference ongoing in Accra. Ebenezer Sabote was at the opening and has filed this report.
The inability of countries to impose stiffer punishments to companies that fail to abide by the data protection laws have been cited as a major challenge to Africa's quest of securing data protection. The first of the Africa Data Protection and Privacy Conference, being hosted in Ghana, is expected to come up with a communique on 5 key action plans to fight the menace. The conference also hopes to address issues of digital economy, financial inclusion, and big data artificial intelligence, among others. After addressing the official opening, Executive Director of the Data Protection Commission, Patricia Edusei-Poku, noted that the communique, which will be backed by international conventions, will include financial penalties to defaulting companies.
For Africa, which would then be actioned with support of international community to enable the improvement of data protection across Africa.
Are we going to see any communique from this conference at the end of it?
Definitely. There's a report with action plan to be produced after this conference. Chief Justice touched on this, that there will be financial penalties for those who are blatantly ignoring their responsibility to comply with the requirements of the data protection law. A fast-track court has been set up, and we have the backing, today you heard, of the Ghana judiciary to enforce the law actively and effecting appropriate legal sanctions where applicable.
Speaking on behalf of the Vice President, Minister for Planning, Jan Bafo, also was confident that the initiative put in place by government to digitize the economy will be successful if data protection laws are enforced.
We must contribute to the protection of the global digital economy by bridging the digital divide, positively promoting international best practices in protecting personal data, enacting data protection laws, and establishing supervisory authorities to enforce them.
The 3-day event marks an important milestone in the roadmap towards promoting data protection and privacy laws in Africa.
The Chief Executive of Cocoa Board, Joseph Boahen Edu, has indicated Ghana is not likely to meet projected cocoa production targets for this year. George Wafe has been engaging the Chief Executive and has the rest of the story.
Projected to buy about 900,000 metric tons of cocoa beans from farmers for the 2018-2019 crop season. However, this was revised to 850,000 metric tons, later moved to 800,000 metric tons. This was due to what officials attribute to the outbreak of the swollen shoot virus, which actually impacted on this production target. Chief Executive of Cocoa Board, Joseph Boahen Edu, has been given more details about what contributed to this challenge.
A lot of cocoa trees have the disease latent. And then also the fact that now we've started a cutting. Because the trees that we are cutting means they will not fruit. And because of that, they are going to impinge on our production this year. So if you've watched or followed our programs, we've doubled up our intervention, program. We've intensified our efforts just to make sure that whatever losses we are going to have from the swollen shoot, disease should be compensated by these interventions. But still, it's going to make it difficult for us to meet our target because we started cutting the trees.
According to the Bloomberg News, the projected target actually hit some 776,000 metric tons, representing a 3-year low and 6% down from what it actually revised for this crop season. It is not clear for now how this challenge would impact on the cost of raising some money from some banks to finance cocoa beans for next year.
The Indian High Commissioner to Ghana, Birender Singh, has expressed commitment to help with the adoption of solar energy for power generation at the various airports in the country. She was reacting to Aviation Minister Kofi Adda's comments that huge amounts of monies are being spent on the cost of electricity at the various airports. Responding to the issue during a courtesy call on the Minister for Aviation, the Indian High Commissioner to Ghana said India is willing to help in the solar energy know-how technology transfer to Ghana to help reduce the costs.
According to the Minister for Aviation, India has been a pace setter in the areas of renewable energy with adoption of solar power at its Kochi International Airport in Kerala. On the back of this, the Minister for Aviation suggested Ghana could adopt the same technology to help cut down the high cost of utility at the various airports.
One area that stands out clearly that we are very excited about the matter of renewable energy, how to apply renewable energy to run the airports. Our cost here in running the airports in terms of utility, particularly electricity, is quite exorbitant. I think for the Civil Aviation Authority alone, which is a relatively small part of the airport operations, we're paying over 2 million cedis a month for electricity. And for a smaller airport like Tamale Airport, we're paying nearly 80,000 cedis a month for electricity. Certainly, if you can get some collaborative ventures developed, perhaps through PPP or bill of and transfer arrangements or whatever, makes business sense and can save the cost of the utility. We use that to service the capital investment that would capture the sun and support us to keep the airport lit and operational and secure.
The topic came up when the Indian High Commissioner to Ghana paid a courtesy call on the Minister for Aviation. The High Commissioner in response noted his office was ever willing to support Ghana adopt the use of solar energy at its airports.
And I think we would be very happy to expeditiously process any proposal received for the solar energy installation at the various airports in Ghana. And the renewables is a thrust area for us, and since Ghana is also a founding member of ISA, I assured Honorable Minister that from our side there would be total support for this project, and we would be very happy to collaborate with Ghana in this particular area.
The adoption of renewable energy is a part of a global agenda for airports to become more energy sufficient and to reduce carbon emission. For Joy Business, Sheila Tamaklo reporting.
Now, making a unique dream a reality is one that everyone hopes to achieve. How about making someone else's dream become a reality? Well, that's the story of Kofi Degberin, a man who had to forego his dream of becoming a banker to carry on with his father's legacy in the tailoring business. It unfolds on the Joy Business Fan.
Now one of the biggest tailoring companies in Takoradi in the Western region, Gangarin Designs has grown over the past 60 years to become the #1 hub for protective mining apparel. The journey of Gangarin Designs started through the vision of its founder and first CEO, James Kwame Degberin, father of Kofi Degberin. But taking over the family business was never a part of Kofi's plan.
When I was in school, my dad would be serious about this job. I said, no. How come that after finishing sixth form, I'll come and do this job? I said, no, no way, I will not go in for that. But as time goes on, I saw the need for me to move from that direction to the job that my dad has pursued to date.
From humble beginnings, the company can now boast of being the clothing line for some big mining companies in Ghana, including Goldfields Limited.
As I'm speaking, we are having about tailor designers who are sewing for Goldfields Takwa Mine. We are about 10 in numbers. And then the way our job is, the precision, the neatness, the finishing, and then the job that we are giving to our clients. Always we are on top of them, because if you get to the mining, any name that you ask, I think Gagarin, if you ask about 10 guys, 6 or 7 will mention Gagarin Designs. This shows that whatever we are producing, we are on top of what we are doing.
With the aid of 15 tailors and designers, Kofi oversees the manufacturing and branding of protective apparel for miners. Although this might seem like a legacy of his father, he takes pride in his role as it gives him the chance to achieve his own dream, empowering the youth.
Okay, my vision was to train our young guys who are willing to sew. Before God the man, I had an advert. The boys, none of them were prepared to sew. As you can see, most of my workers are girls So my first challenge is the guys, the boys who will come up, and then I'm prepared to teach them free. They are not willing to come. So what I do is those who have finished work, I will call them and probably will give you a training, and then you'll be picked. So we started training them, and then upon our preparations, we are registering with TVET, which as years go by, when we had our accreditation, if all things move on well, we will to expand our horizon so that we can teach those who have learned from the roadside, and then maybe Mother Ghana will be able to get, because as at now, most of our PPEs are being imported from outside. Whereas if you're able to get this training, you could do it here.
Banking has always been his first love, but after 25 years of managing the family business, Kofi believes that he made the best turn on the career path.
No, I will not go back, because right now, the way the economy is, even our brothers who have finished the universities, there are no job for them. But as you can see, as at now, I've employed about 12 workers on whom I'm paying their pay as you earn, paying their SNIT, and then at the end of every year, self-assessment that I'm paying is not an easy. So in a way, we're also contributing our quota to the economy. Always, we shouldn't ask what the government can do for us. What can we also do?
For the young ones out there, Kofi's advice is that acquiring a trade is a must, as you never may know where it might lead you.
They should pick something as their hobby, as my father told me. So if I said I intend pursuing banking business, I had not veered to this line, where would I be? Where would my workers get something to be paid in? So right now, I'm speaking the young ones who are coming. If you are learning something, do well to add something to it.
And that was the Joy Business Van. Catch a repeat of this episode tomorrow on the Marketplace. And on that note, wrap up this evening's edition of Business Live. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji. For more business news, do log on to myjoyonline.com/business. Have a good evening.